In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, which still looks very, very cold, much like yesterday's video, but maybe even snowier on both of our major models. Looking at the Ohio Valley, Upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, all seeing massive amounts of snowfall, perhaps even feet of snowfall over the next couple of weeks. So let's dive into things, and right away, right off the bat, we're going to see that the National Weather Service's 6 to 10 day outlooks and the 8 to 14 day outlooks are going to reflect this upcoming cold change. And we can see it right off the bat here for the 9th through the 13th. And we can see that as of now, they show a lot of cold moving towards the south central states and even into the northeast states. Still a little bit of a southeast ridge here present, but when we move to the 8 to 14 day outlook, we're going to see a big change. Let's take a look at the precipitation. And we could see that even though we have the cold temperatures in these areas, we're seeing above average precipitation, which is going to lead to bigger chances of snowfall up there. So above average, especially in the southeast here, but even extending into some of the plains and mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley there, but especially this area here being above average. The 8 to 14 day outlook, still a tiny bit of a southeast ridge here for the immediate southeast, but calling for below average temperatures throughout the central states, throughout the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast here, all of these areas below normal. And this is for the 11th through the 17th, by the way. And meanwhile, we have above average precipitation. Especially this area is going to be really interesting, because if we get a couple of storms moving through offshore, watch out for this area, because we could be seeing some big time snowstorms. And look at this, Northwest still above average, so their snowfall doesn't even slow down, even though the East is starting to see a trend in a snowier direction. It's really everybody cashing in on more snowfall here in this upcoming pattern, likely than what we've seen in weeks past. As we take a look at the past 3 days of temperatures, we can see warmth has really prevailed throughout a majority of the United States, unless you're in this northwest region or this northeast region where we've had below average temperatures. Almost everywhere else is above normal. I just realized this looks just like a face, but I tend to do that sometimes on accident. European model here, going to be very amped. Let's just move through towards tomorrow. This is a little bit of a later video, and this is for Tuesday, February 4th. We do have some snowfall happening here across the northwest. Cooler temperatures over the north central and northeast still, but we could see that there's also a warm push from the south. So there's going to be sort of a boundary there in this area where the warmth and the cold is kind of fighting. And this is going to cause storms to want to move along that area. We do see rising thunderstorms throughout the kind of Gulf states, southeast areas in general for the day tomorrow on Tuesday the 4th. And for Wednesday the 5th here, we see a lot of this comes together and becomes something a little bit more. A lot of thunderstorms and showers here in this corridor. We do see some ice and snowfall here, perhaps for the Midwest, and then continued snowiness out for the Northwest. Let's take a look at by the time we reach Thursday the 6th, and we do get some front-end snowfall here for the Northeast with this system that's kind of rising up. Showers and thunderstorms once again underneath all of it. And we can see a little bit of a cold push that's wanting to move in through the Midwest. This is coming as we have a pretty strong low between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes, which is very indicative of cold air moving into the east. So let's take a look at the 7th. And what we see is a lot of the same. The warmth is putting up a fight here still by Friday, the 7th of February. And we see the cold equally trying to move in. It's starting to advance finally through areas of the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. We have snowfall continuing out for the mountainous west there by Friday the 7th. Saturday on the 8th here, we get another kind of storm riding along this boundary here, ending up in Illinois. We get some upper Midwest and Great Lakes snowfall perhaps for, again, Saturday the 8th. Some wintry weather there for the Mid-Atlantic as well, although likely that's going to become rainfall over time. And really where we end up seeing the most snowfall is going to be that Great Lakes into the northern New England area, where this low is right about here, but we still see that rain snow line somewhere in central New England. So northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and most of Maine end up seeing a lot of snowfall here. These areas eventually switch up and end up as rainfall. Another round of potential thunderstorms here for this cold front boundary moving through into very warm air. Again, thunderstorms and severe weather thrive in that type of environment. By Monday the 10th, this is when we're seeing big change. This jet stream is dipping way below where it was, and we're seeing colder temperatures really intruding on areas further south than what we're going to end up seeing before this point. The 11th, it even worsens perhaps as we see this jet stream well down into the deep south states. We get some snowfall here across the plains, and what looks to be like kind of a beginning of a storm system moving in through the western Gulf there. We see thunderstorms and showers for areas along Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, especially the southern halves of those states for Tuesday the 11th there. And by Wednesday the 12th, we get kind of our first look at a major snowstorm. We get broad low pressure. There's a couple pockets in here where there's low pressure underneath. And we end up with some heavy snowfall for parts of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic here by the high temperatures of Wednesday. As we move overnight, that rain snow line does move northward, but we end up seeing, again, the Northeast really cash in on a major snow system there. By Friday, the 14th, that storm has moved out. We do get another upper Midwest and Great Lakes snow system here. The Northwest as well, seeing some more mountainous snowfall also. And we continue to see activity thriving in that Western Gulf area Friday the 14th. By Saturday the 15th, that system kind of lifts up. Similar to our previous one, it kind of just moves up right up into North Carolina and Virginia area here. We end up getting some Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast snowfall as a result, and we have really deep diving Arctic air. The reason it's particularly diving south here by this Saturday the 15th timeframe is these warm temperatures moving up along the west. This is what we saw a lot of throughout January. As you know, it became very cold in January, and this could bring a similar pattern to that. As this warm air, we call this a positive PNA, it causes the cold air to dive into the east. So let's see what transpires the next couple of hours. We end up with a storm here over or offshore of the Mid-Atlantic. We're getting Mid-Atlantic and Northeast snowfall, especially interior areas there overnight. That one moves out. We get some back-end snowfall still around for the Mid-Atlantic as it's very cold. A clipper system moves down through areas of the northern plains into parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley there, and then kind of dissipates. And we get another storm popping up here for Tuesday on February 18th, bringing wintry weather for the Midwest again. Very crazy stuff here. As we take a look here at the GFS model, I want to just take a look at this. We move through towards Tuesday. Everything's going to be the same for the next couple of days, obviously. It's really once we reach this 10th, we see that we get good agreement. The cold is starting to move down. Some southern Mid-Atlantic snowfall for Virginia. Sleet, snowfall, ice kind of being picked up by this model, indicative of the yellows, pinks, and blues. So a kind of mixed bag event there. And then we get some really rich moisture moving into the plains here by Tuesday the 11th. Heavy snowfall for areas like Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota. And that does move up. We get that broad low pressure and we end up with Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic snowfall here. And this is a little bit more horizontal than what we saw in the European model, which was a little bit more tilted. But nevertheless, a similar storm happening. And really, we don't end up with too much rainfall mixing in for these Mid-Atlantic areas. We keep the heavy snowfall over these southern areas. And this would lead to an overall heavier snow system, a very major one popping up on that model. And right away by Thursday, we get another system here. A low forming near Texas, Kentucky here for the 13th, early on the 13th. Midwest, Great Lakes snowfall starting up. Also the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, they're seeing some. This storm wants to cut in through Ohio, so we end up getting a warm front here. And that's why we're seeing that rain snow line push northward, because this storm is pushing the warm air up to the east of it, this cold front here. Everything west of there, we get snowfall, as you can see. So that's your main snow corridor. These areas, we get the wintry weather followed by some rainfall after, which isn't the best for accumulation, as you know. We do, however, continue to see cold, and we actually get another storm just kind of sparking up around the 15th, 16th, where we get a lot of moisture throughout this southeast area. Snowfall starting out for the Mid-Atlantic, also the plains and Ohio Valley and Midwest there. And as we reach Sunday morning time frame, this is 7 a.m. on Sunday, we get a pretty strong low offshore of the Mid-Atlantic. Another hefty snow system here for Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York here, even southern New England perhaps. We'll have to see if it tracks up the coast and gives New England more impacts, or if it moves kind of flat off. We'll see what this wants to do. And it does want to pull up the coast. So we see this moving close towards Long Island, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, those islands off of New England and in the Northeast in general. And we get heavy snowfall for southern New England and really all of New England, just particularly the south there. And then we finally look to warm up by the end of the model run by the 19th. So after that very action-packed pattern, this model does show warmth at the end. Keep in mind, this is 384 hours out, so take it with a grain of salt. This could definitely change, but that could spell an end to this. It might not be weeks and weeks of this if this model is correct. It might just be about 1 week of the action-packed weather, which, if it looked like this, would still just bring tons of snowfall to some folks. So definitely worth noting there. The total precipitation on your European model is plentiful across the Northwest, Northern Rockies, and then in particular the East here, where we get these storms just consistently rising up, bringing lots and lots of precipitation, even some cutting more inland. We just get lots of storms moving through there. The anomalies reflect this. We get above average for the Northwest and then the East, with some below average for the South Central and Southwestern states. Let's take a look at the total snowfall on your European model, and we get a ton in the mountainous West. We get a lot here for these North Central areas like the Plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley. We end up with plowable amounts for all of these areas. Mid-Atlantic, same thing, up to a foot, maybe a little bit more. And then New England, it's multiple feet on the European model. The GFS model, a little bit more intense here. The mountainous West, same thing. It's almost a fact that they are going to get a ton of snowfall here coming up. But we end up with 1, 2, or even 3 feet across a lot of the Plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes. And then for the Mid-Atlantic into New England, we end up with 2, 3, 4 feet for some of these areas, especially in these pockets where we're getting some of these kind of pastels. That is 2, 3, 4 feet of snowfall, which, take it with a grain of salt. That's obviously a huge amount, and this model just has them in the bullseye for back-to-back major storms. But it shows you what type of potential this type of pattern really has. As we take a look at the temperature pattern, again, we're going to be warm for a while here. I don't want to hear anybody saying, it's so warm outside. What are you talking about? We are particularly talking about the 10th and onward. Anything before that is likely to be warmer than after it. That is what this video is about, is after the 10th. I want to clarify that. So we get warmth here still by the 7th, 8th, and there is some colder areas and colder times. Like here on Wednesday, it looks quite cold along the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but overall warmer. It's not until we reach the 9th, 10th here where the cold just kind of fully moves in, 11th, 12th, and it gets worse here towards the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and we get this major Arctic blast here for the 17th. Brutal cold air moving deeply into the central, north central, and eastern United States with a full-blown positive PNA out west. GFS model, again, warm for the most part. We get that colder Wednesday, but overall warm until about the 10th here where the cold really starts to intrude. The GFS model a little later to get us there, but we do end up with some pretty brutal cold air for the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th here, 17th. Look at that. I mean, this is pretty far below normal. We're talking a major cold air, probably 15, 20, 25 degrees below normal, maybe even more in these areas. As we move towards the 18th, 19th, we do see a warming trend, maybe heading northward for the east, with colder air prevailing once again for the west. But like I said earlier, 384 hours out, this could certainly change and likely will because it's so far out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.